Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my review of Doctor Who, the Sontaran Experiment, which is the second Sontaran story in Doctor Who, at least on the screen, and the third story of Season 12, and the first time since the rescue that we've got a two-parter. Yay! So it's only 50 minutes long, so basically the length of a now current Doctor Who story as of Series 11 onwards. Maybe the occasional series 1 to 10 story might be slightly longer than its 45 minutes runtime and might go to 50. I think Pandorica Opens was 50 minutes. Yeah, sometimes they go to 50, sometimes they even go to 55. If they don't quite go to the whole hour or to an hour and 5 minutes. But yeah, Sontaran Experiment. It's also going to be the only two-parter until 1982 again, so it's between the rescue and Black Orchid. This will be the only two-parter. So, so we'll have to deal with it as we can. Although some six-parters were treated like 4 and 2 merged together, but this is and to be honest, there was supposed to be 2 six-parters in this season, Genesis of the Daleks, which comes next, and another one which would have been the Ark in Space and the Sontaran Experiment, but this was deemed as unachievable, so it was decided to have another 4-parter and a 2-parter, and then it's ended up with the Ark in Space, and then Sontaran Experiment, and the story pretty much moves right into this story. And yeah, and then this story links into Genesis of the Daleks, and then that links into Revenge of the Cybermen, and that therefore creates the first series story arc in the classic series, and also ties in with Terror of the Zygons in the next season. Not starting in Robot, it started with Ark in Space, and then ending with Terror of the Zygons rather than Revenge of the Cybermen. Maybe Terror of the Zygons was supposed to be the end of Season 12, but then was pushed back to Season 13 anyway, but I'm sure by this point they decided what's going to be in what season by now. So, yeah, Sontaran Experiment, it's an okay little story. It's, like the Robot, it's less special than Robot because that was a post-regeneration story. This one is a short adventure. The only special thing about it, besides being 2 parts, is that there's a Sontaran in it. The second time, we've got Steyr, who is conducting experiments on humans from a colony who have been shot down in space, and a distress call has been sent, so Steyr has been destroyed their ship when they landed, and he's been experimenting on the crew. And this is all part of a invasion for the Sontarans. Although, why they need to have all these experiments when Earth is pretty much abandoned after the events explained in the Ark in Space about the solar flares and stuff, and that Nerva was abandoned for about a long time after then, when they should have been, due to we're disrupting their alarm clocks. There is a few references to the previous story, but they don't really explain in detail, which is absolutely fine because this story is it's right afterwards. It's people who've been watching the previous story, especially if, like me, I watched this one right afterwards because it's it's a 2-parter. It's getting out of the way quickly right after seeing the Ark in Space. I just hope I can watch Genesis of the Daleks as easily. But get right after when I've just watched Ark in Space, so I understand. And people watching at the time, it's just a week before that, the end of that previous story, when they mentioned it in part 1. So it doesn't need to have so many references, like maybe something like the Robot, or if it was at the other end of the season, like Revenge of the Cybermen was. And yeah, I also like how that they just go on location across Dartmoor throughout the entire episode. This episode is completely filmed on location. Not filmed on film, so it couldn't get a Blu-ray release until the Season 12 Blu-ray box set came out last year, at least. But certainly, it looks like it's a nice refresher to get out of the studio, do a bit more location work. We had the last story was completely studio-based, and whilst Robot had quite a few locations, as did Planet of Spiders, they still had quite a bit of studio-based stuff as well, although I think those two were a bit more typical studio and location-based stories. Next story, Genesis for the Daleks, will be a bit more studio-based, with some locations as well, but I don't think as much as Planet of the Spies or Robot. So it's actually, and it's quite, like I said, it's quite refreshing. It's very refreshing to be completely on location for once in a while, as opposed to having some like sets and studio stuff. And I think it works to an advantage. The location as well. It looks really great, and I love how they're doubling Dartmoor as London. Basically, it's funny. And fun fact: Tom Baker also broke his collarbone in some bits, so some of the fights had to be done by his stunt double, Terry Walsh. But you can probably tell in some parts where what looks like a casted an arm, and also he had to cover up his damaged shoulder with the scarf, probably. And the fight between the Doctor and Star is actually really good. The one-on-one combat, it looks great and has some really great moments. And I like how the characters are interacting with each other. I mean, I don't really care for the Doctor's interactions with the three guys who capture him in part 1, but other interactions between Sarah and this other guy, and Harry with a guy who's being experimented for fluids, that's really great. It's got some really good stuff. And the Doctor's interactions with Star's commander is good and has some very good. And I like how that Star's commander says thank you to Star when he's delivering part of his report. So, not part of his report, an update. So that's really good. Although I don't get why aliens in the show were like, you may have defeated us this time, but we will return. You will pay for this. I mean, if they're gonna come back, be sure. But this guy's just like, you insultive Earthling. We will return and we will be stronger or something. Yeah, unless it's predicting the events of the Sontaran stratagem, I don't really care. I don't really think so. It's not really that much of a story, but there isn't really a huge amount going on. Robot is a pretty decent design, I suppose. It does look a bit fake, but decent design. And I think some of the actors, I'm wondering if this is their normal voices, if they put one on. But one of them, I think he must be Scottish, but he's has this kind of a very bushy voice. He pushes the Doctor away when the Doctor's looking at this little camera that he has as he's spying for Steyr. He goes, "You're a freak." I can't really do it as well, but it's a bit odd the way he speaks. It's this character. I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't really care for the Doctor's interactions with those three characters when they capture him the first time in part 1. That's really my only problem with this story. I don't really care for that. And there's just a huge amount going on, and the Sontaran doesn't really reveal himself until the end of part 1. So so that's a great clapper. It just doesn't. It's just ruined by the fact that the characters in the monster is in the title. They do that quite often, don't they? I think that's one thing we can say for New Who stories with the individual title, and also when they had the individual titles back in the 60s episodes, they didn't give away the monster or the villain who would be, if it wasn't going to be a cliffhanger, it wouldn't matter, or a surprise reveal, like in Day of the Daleks, when they revealed the Daleks midway through part 1, because the Daleks were in the title, it was not supposed to be a twist, it was not supposed to be a cliffhanger. It was just going to be a reveal, and oh my gosh. Shut up, bloody bird! Sorry, got a really loud bird outside. He's going, eh! Anyway. But overall, the Sontaran Experiment is good. I don't love it. I think it's good. It's enjoyable. You can watch it for 50 minutes and enjoy it. Hey, people who don't like Series 11 can watch this instead if you want, or one of the other two parters. I mean, it's not like you don't have any other option. So, overall, I'm going to give the Sontaran Experiment a 8 out of 10. Not much special besides being the second appearance of the Sontarans. And the second of this story arc, that started with Ark in Space and then ends with Terror of the Zygons, technically. But it's still a good story. It's got some fun stuff, and it's also the first of 3 stories that will feature recurring monsters that will help audience ease in with the new Doctor. So that's good. The Daleks and the Cybermen also help with this audience. In the case of the Cybermen, it's the first time they've been seen since 1968. Yeah, it's a lot of comebacks. But before we get to the Cybermen, we've got to get to the Daleks first. So, that's it from the Sontaran Experiment. Next time we'll be looking at one of Doctor Who's greatest stories of all time. Also, we're told, Genesis of the Daleks. Personally, I don't consider this one of the best, but I do like it, especially the last 2 episodes. I consider the last 2, certainly episode 6 is certainly one of the single greatest episodes of all time. I just don't consider the whole 6-parter one of the greatest stories of all time. But I will not say it's a bad story. So, fans of Genesis of the Daleks, you'll be glad to know I don't hate this story. I don't dislike it. I just like it. I just don't love it. That's all. Apart from that last episode, and also episode 5, but it's not one of the greatest. Episode 6, on the other hand. But second half of 4, I also like that. But the first half of 4 and 1 to 3, not so much. Parts of, but not the whole things. But yeah, so next time, Genesis of the Daleks, and you'll get a fan who does not absolutely adore this, the opinion of a fan who does not absolutely adore this story, but you will get but it will still get a favourable review. It's just not gonna be, I'm just not gonna gush over this one like I did with Ark in Space. So anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel.